Yes, good evening. My name is Wallace Gator, Reverend Dr. Wallace Gator Bradley, and I'm the host of the Bradley Report. I'm also the chairman of United in Peace, Inc. Got interested stories today I want to share with you about Trump's world. He implicating the former president, Barack Obama, trying to say he may have committed treason. His people or him, Trump, even went at Beyoncé, saying that the Harris campaign paid her $11 million for an endorsement. And everyone know that it's not true. And then there's Netanyahu that was trying to say that in Gaza, the people weren't starving, the children weren't starving to death. And the world is watching it. Yes, the world, inclusive of me and you, is watching the people over in Gaza starve to death, to the point that people are now screaming genocide. Former Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who happened to become the ambassador to Japan, even said that there is starvation happening over in Gaza. President Trump, while he was on his trip over in the UK, had to come out and say what the world is saying, that there's starvation in Ghana. Not Ghana, Gaza. And now everyone is screaming genocide around the world. And what I'm showing you is not Gator or Reverend Dr. Wallace Gator Bradley. I'm sharing with you what the world is saying. And it's not from it's not where we're anti-Jewish. It's the truth of what's happening over there, to the point that even the Prime Minister of Germany has something to say. And last but not least, you're going to see it yourself. The young lady that got 20 years for what she was doing with children. And Feinstein, the one that committed suicide, so they say, in the jail. And now Trump is coming out and saying the reason he kicked Feinstein, I think that's his name, out of Mar-a-Lago because he allegedly took some girls, and one of the girls that had committed suicide is coming out that she was working at Mar-a-Lago, and this woman that got 20 years that's trying to get her sentence commuted, to the point that she may not mention Trump in the nefarious things that happened, was the one that went to Mar-a-Lago and recruited this young girl to do the things or to be abused by these men. I'm going to let you be the judge and form your opinion on what you see. These issues is being put together by the producer of the show based off of something that's open to the public, that's been fact-checked, is none other than Dr. Terry Marsh Bradley, who is the chairman of United Peace, Inc. So without further ado, let me bring my show to you. So Sister Amani, let's go to work.
Called on the Israeli government to, quote, finish the job in Gaza, by which he meant, we believe, start the ceasefire. President Trump publicly splitting from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Netanyahu's handling of the rapidly worsening humanitarian crisis. Yesterday, at a Jerusalem conference with Trump faith advisor Paula White, Prime Minister Netanyahu said this.
There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
Needless to say, humanitarian groups in Gaza say that whether or not starvation is policy in Gaza, it is reality. And for the Prime Minister to deny the existence of this man-made hunger crisis was too much even for Netanyahu's #1 foreign ally, President Trump, to bear. Alongside English Prime Minister Keir Starmer this morning, President Trump was asked if he agreed with Netanyahu's comments.
I don't know. I mean, based on television, I would say not particularly, because those children look very hungry.
At an event about an hour later, President Trump then said this.
That's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved.
President Trump's comments come as international outrage swells, fueled by heart-wrenching images of starving children. Starvation has killed at least 14 Gazans over the past 24 hours, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health. Israel's 10-hour-a-day pause in fighting in 3 parts of Gaza is meant, Israelis say, to enable more aid to be able to reach people, but the Israeli military manages the entry of all aid into Gaza and blames the United Nations for failing to collect and distribute the aid that reaches individuals within the territory. A source earlier today texted me these pictures from inside Gaza showing the complete breakdown of any semblance of order and the impossibility or near impossibility of the task facing aid workers as hundreds of thousands of people swarm the trucks. Now, some other nations, such as Jordan and the United Arab Emirates, are using airdrop to try and stem the spread of starvation. One man on the ground in Gaza tells CNN that this method only causes more violence. He decided not to rush to the aid. Take a listen.
This aid is disgraceful. We are not dogs to be made to run after aid. People fought over it. We'd rather die of hunger with dignity than die in humiliation and filth.
In just the last several hours, condemnations for Netanyahu's handling of this crisis are growing intense inside Israel and inside the American Jewish community. B'Tselem, an Israeli human rights group in Israel, became the first Israeli organization to accuse its own government of, quote, committing genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, adding that Hamas's heinous attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, cannot be a justification for genocide. Inside the United States, the American Jewish Committee and the Reform Movement of North America have also given voice to the deadly hunger crisis in Gaza. Even the Chancellor of Germany, a country reluctant to ever criticize Israel, says that he's thinking about increasing pressure on Netanyahu and his government to alleviate this starvation. CNN's Jeff Zeleny is in Edinburgh, Scotland, with the president, and CNN's Jeremy Diamond is in Jerusalem. And Jeff, President Trump says the U.S. is going to get more involved. What might that look like?
Jake, President Trump talked today about setting up food centers and setting up an ability for the food to be allowed to be distributed without boundaries, without borders. But the simple fact that President Trump said starvation is real and Israel needs to do more, that was so significant. Yes, that has become obvious watching these just gruesome images that the world has seen, but the president has not yet addressed it in the degree to which he did until meeting with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And that was the entire point, at least the top agenda item for that meeting here in Scotland. For the British British Prime Minister to say the English people are revolted by this, the world is revolted by this, and President Trump essentially echoed his deep concern, and that is something that he has not done. Even as recently as yesterday, as you said, the president was suggesting that the U.S. needs to be thanked more, but now he's talking about setting up food centers and contributing more money. The question is, though, what type of policy changes actually will be coming? Is Israel, is Netanyahu in particular, going to be pressured to do more? But Jake, this is a test not only for the Trump administration, but also a test for the United States, for the Trump foreign policy, the American first agenda, if you will. The United States has often come to the aid of situations like this around the globe. And for the president, he signaled really for the first time today that he was inclined to do so. We'll see what policies follow from that. But by saying starvation is real, directly contradicting Netanyahu, that was significant.
Jeremy, how long does the Israeli government anticipate this tactical pause in Gaza to let aid in will last?
Well, Jake, the Israeli Prime Minister's office has just put out a statement saying that they will continue to work to ensure that large quantities of humanitarian aid get into Gaza. The Israeli military, for its part, has not said exactly how long these 10-hour tactical pauses, effectively brief ceasefires in parts of the Gaza Strip, how long those will actually continue going forward. But just the very fact that Israel is taking these steps, these tactical pauses, these safe distribution routes for humanitarian aid trucks, it really is the best evidence yet that Israel was carrying out restrictions in Gaza prior on the distribution of humanitarian aid, because many of these steps, Jake, are the kinds of steps that the United Nations and other humanitarian aid organizations have been calling on Israel to put in place for months now, as they have said that the Israeli military, the Israeli government were making it too onerous a process and not facilitating the distribution of humanitarian aid once it actually made it into the Strip in order for it to be distributed among the population inside of Gaza. What is clear, though, is the United Nations is saying that these tactical pauses, these safe distribution routes, they are a welcome sign, but they need to continue for a sustained period of time. Yesterday, we saw that about 120 trucks of aid made it into Gaza. That's an uptick from where we've been over the course of the last several weeks, but it certainly is nowhere near enough, nowhere near the hundreds, perhaps even thousands of trucks of aid that are needed to get into Gaza to even begin to alleviate the starvation crisis there. We know that people are continuing to die of malnutrition in Gaza right now, and it will take some time before enough aid actually gets in to the point where we stop seeing those daily death tolls. In just the last 24 hours, the Palestinian Ministry of Health says that 14 people have died of starvation. That brings the total for this month alone, Jake, in Gaza to 77 people who've died of starvation.
Man-made starvation. Jeremy Diamond and Jeff Zeleny, thanks so much. Joining us now, CNN political and global affairs analyst Barak Ravid. Also with us, Yair Rosenberg, a staff writer for The Atlantic. Barak, you report that two of Prime Minister Netanyahu's aides are in D.C. this week, and you're going to talk to White House officials about Gaza. What are you hearing about what the Israeli government's message to the White House is? Because this is a really stark moment with President Trump saying, no, that starvation's real, a direct contradiction of what Netanyahu said.
Today, Israel and the U.S. were together on an island, on a diplomatic island, when the rest of the world looked at them and said, you're responsible to what's going on in Gaza. And what President Trump did today is basically told Netanyahu, I'm off the island, you're now on your own, and you should change course. And I think that's very significant because, and to your question about the visit by Netanyahu's advisors, Ron Dermer and Tzachi Hanegbi, they will try and coordinate with Secretary of State Rubio and with Special Envoy Witkoff the policy going forward in Gaza, not only on the humanitarian issue, but also on the ceasefire deal and other issues. But when you look at what Trump has been doing over the last 6 months, he basically didn't pressure Netanyahu at all. He allowed Netanyahu to do almost whatever he wanted in Gaza, and we see the result. And in the only instance that Trump decided to do the opposite of what Netanyahu said, the result was that a hostage, an American hostage, was released and came back home, Idan Alexander. And the question is whether President Trump will continue to give Netanyahu a free hand in Gaza and will basically follow his footsteps, or he will try to develop a U.S. policy and tell Netanyahu to follow him.
You know, I may mention that former mayor of the city of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, who became an ambassador for Japan, he even made reference to what was happening over there in the Gaza Strip. I bring this up because everyone knows that he's Jewish and that he's speaking about the atrocities. So they can't say that what you're witnessing is anti-Semitic about what's happening over there. America once set back from what I've read in the history books and from the newspaper stories and the archives of how we got involved in World War II. Sat back and watched what Germany was doing. To Jews that were in Europe. And I'm seeing now the world, the United Nations, and everybody is saying it makes no difference who is doing what, as long as it's not coming to the crises that we're witnessing now, like they witnessed in the 40s, or what is happening to human beings, innocent individuals. So without further ado, Amani, let's get to the next piece. I hope it's the one with Rahm Emanuel.
As the White House looks to quiet a MAGA-led uproar over its handling of files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, the Trump DOJ's second-in-command now says he will seek information from Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently serving a 20-year sentence on sex trafficking charges and is appealing her conviction. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche posting Tuesday, the FBI and DOJ will hear what she has to say. I anticipate meeting with Miss Maxwell in the coming days.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
Her attorney confirming talks with the DOJ, adding, "We are grateful to President Trump for his commitment to uncovering the truth in this case." The House Oversight Committee also voting Tuesday to subpoena her testimony. In the past, Trump has offered well wishes for Maxwell, making these comments in 2020.
I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, but I wish her well, whatever it is.
Now Democrats suggesting Maxwell is looking for help from Trump.
She obviously wants to be free, and she understands that there's opportunity in her in working with Donald Trump.
Though President Trump shrugged off a question about Maxwell yesterday,
I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt.
He and the White House have been well aware of the pressure from their base and trying to shift focus, including throwing out baseless accusations that former President Obama tried to influence the 2016 election. Yesterday, Obama's office issuing a rare rebuke, writing, "These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction." Overnight, President Trump coaching congressional Republicans on his strategy.
Every time they give you a question that's not appropriate, just say, oh, by the way, Obama cheated on the election.
For now, many seem happy to avoid the issue entirely, the House starting its summer recess early to avoid potentially embarrassing votes demanded by Democrats and some Republicans for Epstein information the Trump administration says it doesn't have.
This comes down to what are Republicans afraid of?
there's something that's happening, and everybody is finding out what's happening. The one thing about the truth, you can't bury it. So we're going to go to the next piece with the B and how they even try to use her to take the attention off of the Feinstein.
Time accusing Beyoncé, Oprah, and Kamala Harris of breaking campaign finance laws. Trump posted on Truth Social that although those who broke the law should be prosecuted, from claims of million-dollar payments for celebrity endorsements to renewed chatter about Jeffrey Epstein, Trump's Truth Social tirade is raising eyebrows and sparking fresh debate. So what's fact, what's fiction, and what's political theater? Our latest report breaks it all down.
U.S. President Donald Trump has stirred the pot once again. He's alleging that pop superstar Beyoncé, along with media mogul Oprah Winfrey and civil rights activist Al Sharpton, received illegal payments from the Democratic Party in exchange for endorsing Kamala Harris during the 2024 presidential campaign. In a Truth Social post made during his visit to Scotland, Trump accused the Harris campaign of dishing out millions in what he called illegal endorsement fees. Trump claimed Beyoncé was handed $11 million for a brief appearance at a Houston rally last October. It was an event where, according to Trump, Beyoncé never sang and exited to a booing and angry audience. Trump also alleged that Oprah received $3 million for expenses and Sharpton was paid $600,000, despite allegedly doing absolutely nothing. President Trump further wrote that these fees were incorrectly stated in the books and records. He concluded his post by stating that all of those who received endorsement money broke the law and should be prosecuted. However, campaign finance records and statements from those involved tell a different story. As per reports, Federal Election Commission filings show a $165,000 payment was made by the Harris campaign to Beyoncé's production company. It was categorized as campaign event production. At the rally, Beyoncé delivered a poetic speech calling for national unity. She told the crowd that it is time to sing a new song. No musical performance, just carefully crafted political prose. As for Oprah, Harris's campaign spokesperson had previously clarified that $1 million spent on Harper Productions wasn't a celebrity payout, but the cost of staging a high-profile event in Michigan. Oprah herself echoed the sentiment last year, stating the people who worked on that production needed to be paid. Still, the post comes at a convenient time for Trump, who's facing mounting pressure over his alleged ties to late Jeffrey Epstein. He recently slammed ongoing probes into Epstein's connections as a Democratic con job. But critics say his recent moves are just deflection tactics, meant to shift focus away from the Epstein case. Trump has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal, its owner Rupert Murdoch, and others over a published letter allegedly linking him to the sex offender. From lawsuits against media giants to celebrity conspiracy theories, Trump seems to be taking his 2024 grievances into 2025. However, not without a signature mix of deflection, drama, and Truth Social tirades.
He bringing up stuff, prosecute, but he knows that they didn't commit any crimes. Everybody knows that he's lying. But the thing that we must understand is this. Feinstein, whatever his name is, he got indicted by Trump's Department of Justice. He got found guilty by Trump's Department of Justice. So Trump never had all the evidence in the files knowing all the wrongs that he had done and who it was done with. For them to come and do all these things to try to hide the file and the evidence that's out there is ridiculous. And this ain't just Gator saying it. It's what America is saying. This is what his MAGA crew is saying. I'm just saying this. People of America, lean on truth instead of constantly trying to figure out how high a lie go? Or why do it grow so fast in rumors? And if he didn't have nothing to hide, if there was nothing to hide, he would release it. But there's more things that's happening in America. And I'm telling everybody, vote in 2026. Let's hit that last piece, if we can, Amani. Right.
What are you hoping Todd Blanche interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell? What are you hoping that they get out of that?
I really have really nothing to say about it. She is being talked to by a very smart man, by a very good man, Todd Blanche. And I don't know anything about the conversation. I haven't really been following it. A lot of people are asking me about pardons. Obviously, this is no time to be talking about pardons. But a lot of people have asked about pardon. This is just not a time to be talking about pardons. Todd will come back with whatever he's got. You're making a very big thing over something that's not a big thing. You should be talking about, if you're going to talk about that, talk about Clinton, talk about the former president of Harvard, talk about all of his friends, talk about the hedge fund guys that were with him.
I just want to say, to God be the glory. That's Gator's story. And you see what I'm seeing and what the world is saying. And judge for yourself. We're in an age where you can Google to verify what is happening. You can fact check anything. You can sit back and listen to what an individual said out of his mouth and hit these things right here and go in there and find out if he's lying before he finishes a conversation. This thing is serious because it's getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. All I can say is vote, don't choke, pay attention and stand on what's right and stand on truth. To God be the glory. That's Gator's story.